Hey guys, welcome back. Got an update for you on progress of this 34 slammer we've been working on. Everything's kind of in different stages of completion here. Chassis semi together, it's all painted up. I got front and rear suspension on. I needed to get to that point where I could figure out my coilover shocks when I go to modify those and wind some springs and use our machined aluminum coilover shock seats, spring seats on there. So chassis kind of to the stage where it's temporarily at a standstill. That's my next project, is to try and get some springs made for the front and the rear. Motor's kind of half done. Still got a few things to do on that. The interior, roll cage and seat and dashboard are all completed and painted and detailed. We'll get you up here and get you a look at where we are so far. Hang on one sec. Going up. Coming down. Right about there. Yeah, that'll work. All right. First things first. Where are we? Interior. So interior is pretty basic, like this kit is. What we did do, where's the pointy stick? Toothpick, eeny miny, we'll take Mo over here. The dash face on this model is pretty plain. They give you a raised outline of what the instrument panel looks like. But the thing is that the detail is so low that it's really hard to do anything with it. And they don't give you any decals in the kit to do the gauge faces. So what I did do is I drilled out the gauges on it and took some aluminum tubing and inserted those in there and just used some Mod Podge to get kind of a clear lens. And then I used some Molotow just to fill in the gauge face. They really don't have any detail, but at least I've got the kind of aluminum rings, and it just kind of highlights that just a little bit better. I used Molotow on the spokes of the steering wheel, Molotow on the mirror, of course. Got the seat belt all detailed up. Turned out pretty good. Red seat belt and Molotow again on the buckles and latches. So interior, other than a fire extinguisher I haven't put in there yet, is ready to go. Headers we got painted up. And then what I did, of course, I painted those matte black first. And used the seams are pretty bad on these headers. So what I used was my styrene glue mixed with a bunch of pieces of styrene in there to make kind of a glue filler, and I filled in all the seams and then sanded them down on the headers so they just look a little bit better than what they were. And once I filled those, sanded those, painted them flat black, and then did a mist coat of white over it, just to give some contrast to them. Not pure white, it's kind of turned out kind of gray looking actually, but anyway, it should look good when we're mounted. Header flanges. The header flanges in detail in this motor are kind of weird. So what I've done is I got to run spark plug wires in this model too. So what I've done is I've taken these recesses between the header outlet on this header flange, and I've filed the slot bigger so I can get my spark plug wires in between these header tubes. And they don't really give you a big enough slot in there to make room on the head to get your spark plug wires in there. So I filed those down. Those are ready to mount. Firewall, basically just Molotowed these modules on here, and I've still got to add a MSD box to this as well, but that's kind of in the background, painted and drying. Just used permanent marker and highlighted the wires that are on there. So that's kind of basically ready to go, other than the master cylinder's got to go on, and as I mentioned, that MSD box. So that's kind of in that stage of things. Rad support we've got painted up, and I've cut the stock springs that came on there, the coilover shocks, right off at the mounting point, right off of there. And I've still got to figure out my length to get down to the lower control arms, but that's kind of our next project. But I had to get this in the painted stage and ready to mount, so I can figure out that distance and get those coilover shocks built. Same for the rear. But rad support, rad are ready to go. Chassis is all painted up. I've got my, one sec, knock this motor over. I've got front and rear suspension done on it. Watch when you go to do the instructions on these coil springs and mount these things. From what I see in the instructions, I don't know if the other kits in this series are the same, but in this particular one, I'm pretty darn sure that the instructions show these leaf springs mounted in the reverse position, which is incorrect. The bow's got to be pointing down towards the ground rather than up in the air. So we've got rear end mounted, rear cage and coilover shock spring mount mounted as well. So we've just got to figure out and build our coilover shocks for the rear. And as I mentioned, we got the front ready to go. So chassis is kind of to the stage where I really can't do anything else until I get some shocks made. Motor's coming along. Got pulleys mounted, made my bracket for my alternator, got it epoxied in there, and just did a little filling in here to make it look a little bit more like a bracket. Detailed up the alternator. Still got to run some wires out of the back side of the alternator. Distributor, we still have to run our distributor wires, our plug wires on there, and get our fuel filter on there. Air cleaner we'll leave to last to make sure I'm going to have hood clearance for my aluminum air filter on there. Got our oil breathers epoxied in place. Oil filters in place. So a little return spring we got mounted on there. Still got to do a throttle cable on it, but that's a little further down the road. Yeah, but motor's coming along good. Just painted it gray. I just highlighted the oh my god, I can't pronounce it. Wayland valve cover emblem, just with some black wash. Turned out good. So motor's coming along pretty good. What else we got? That's kind of it, other than we got a bunch of roll cages and crash bars and battery detailed up, fire extinguisher in the background I still got to mount. Tires and wheels turned out good. Believe it or not, the gold color is the same base color for the body color, which is a Alclad pale gold, they call it. And it's different than their silver candy base. So the Alclad silver candy base, they say they want you to spray that right over bare plastic with no primer. But the pale gold, if you're going to paint a car red, if you're not using the silver candy base, is with this pale gold, they want a primer down first. So I recommend you do that. So what I did do is I was going to paint the wheels the same color as the body. But once I laid down the gold, the pale gold Alclad base, I kind of liked the gold look. So I just left them like that. Just went around the edge with a Molotow marker just to highlight the rims. Still got to do the wheel lugs and the center hubcap, but that's a little bit further down the road. What else we got? Body's painted. Still drying. Turned out really good, actually. And it's that Alclad candy red enamel that we use for a body color on it. But it turned out pretty good. It's going to look like this guy spent more on his paint job than he did on his race car prepping it. But It should look pretty good when we're finished. So body's done, hood's done. It's still in the drying stage. We'll give it a couple more days to set and dry up properly. But hood's looking pretty good. So that's kind of where we are, boys and girls. I don't think I got anything else I need to show you here. Everything else is here is kind of a hodgepodge of pre-assembled stuff. Oh, we got some wire we're going to use on make our coil springs, and I've got my little, I believe that this is the screw that I'm using to get the right diameter to wind my wire around to get my coil over shock springs for front and rear. So that's another step we got to do here. That'll be one of the next things we tackle. But anyway, I thought I'd get you guys up to speed on where we are with this thing. So it's coming along pretty good. And thank you guys for sticking with me. And we'll catch you soon, and hopefully got a little more progress done. All right, you guys. Talk to you. Bye.